Hi guys, I was going to put together this really elaborate scrapbook for you, and I may still do that. But in the meantime, I was thinking it might be a lot quicker if I just do it on video. And you know, everyone, that I've been doing a lot of research on ancestry.com and newspaper.com and trying to find out like some of our history and where our ancestors came from. But I was talking about scrapbooking with Herta Saunders, who I did an interview with about 2 months ago, and she did a book about her dementia, and she started making memory books for her family, and she was really trying to get me into it. And I went to Michael's and I bought all this stuff, and I brought it home, and I realized this is going to take a lot of time. So then I was thinking, what do I do every day? But I record. So I thought I could take like 5 minutes and record a month every time I'm recording, and then maybe I can just build on it and build on it, and we'll see how it goes. It's an experiment, but for the meantime, I thought I would start with the year I was born. And I think I'm going to start with January. Instead of starting in October, I think I'll start in January and kind of build up to when I was born, and then go all the way through till, I don't know, maybe, I don't know about the present, but we'll see how close I get going month by month. But let's just see how this goes. Okay. So in January 1964, my parents met over Christmas break. So it would have been anywhere between December 26th till January 2nd at Castle Gardens in Allentown. And she was, let's see, she was 16. He was 19. And for all of you who never heard of Castle Gardens, it was part of Dorney Park. And it burned down when I was in my early 20s, I want to say. But it was this huge dance hall, and I got to go there as up until about 21. It was an underage. For me, you had to be 18. Probably that's the way it was for them too. But from what I remember, it was free. I don't know, maybe there was a price, and then you brought your own beer. But it was like this huge barn, and I used to go there to take aerobics too. But they met there. The place would be open. They'd have a DJ. It was big, huge, like dance floor, and they were both really good dancers. So they danced, they met, and that week they created me. So it was kind of a quick thing from what I know. That's about all I know. But anyway, at this point in January, they don't know it yet. Grandma doesn't even know it yet. But I was conceived. So I started looking into the rest of what was going on in January of 1964, just to put a little history behind it, which is what I love about all the historical books that I read, is when they put the history and what was going on during that time, which until I started to do this research, I really didn't know. And I thought we could gain some perspective and then do it all the way up until I was having all of you. So here we go. I'm going to do it I'll give you the dates from beginning to end, and we'll see how this goes. So January 5th, so I was conceived somewhere between Christmas break. And then just to give you some history of what was going on in January of 1964, on the 5th, Barry Goldwater announced that he was going to run for president. So you have to remember JFK had died in November of 63. So think about like what that Christmas was like. There was a big transition period, and the whole country was still kind of really bummed out. But on the 7th, Nicolas Cage was born. I'm going to give you some birthdays too of some famous people. So I didn't know that. I didn't know he was my age, so that's kind of cool. Then on the 10th, the Rolling Stones released their debut album called The Rolling Stones. Pretty cool, huh? Didn't know that either. Finding out all kinds of stuff. And then on the 10th, we have some Vietnam news. Now, Vietnam is just beginning to be a thing. So right now, there was a U.S. ambassador. His name was Henry Cabot Lodge Jr. He was also a senator from Massachusetts, and he also ran as the vice president under Nixon for the 1960 race that they lost to JFK. So he starts reporting to Washington that the new president of South Vietnam was opposed to the U.S. soldiers going into the villages of rural Vietnam. He was afraid it would make it look like we owned Saigon, which is what I guess Russia was saying at the time. I'm really not good about this Vietnam War stuff, but we'll learn together, okay? How about that? Then, on the 14th, Teddy Sorensen, who was an aide to President Kennedy, and after reading all the Kennedy books that I've had, I'm very familiar with him. And he had written to President Johnson, and he was opposed to neutralizing South Vietnam. So I guess in this very early stage of Vietnam, they were trying to make South Vietnam like Switzerland, basically that they're not they don't have any allegiances either to Russia or to us. But he was opposed to them doing that. And I guess the French president was also opposed to that. So he said it would also lead to basically South Vietnam eventually becoming a communist territory or a communist country, which is not what they wanted. And Johnson's advisors all agreed with Sorensen. So at this moment, they are all on the same page. Back to happy stuff, because that's not happy stuff. On the 17th, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory was published by Roald Dahl. How happy is that? I love Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Who knew that it was 1964? Also, on the 17th, Michelle Obama is born. Yay! Me and Michelle are kind of the same age. She was 9 months older. So, on the 20th, the Beatles released their second album, Meet the Beatles, which we all know had their very famous song, I Want to Hold Your Hand. So, that's pretty cool too. Then on the 20th, also more Vietnam stuff. This is going to happen to us when we're talking about the 60s. There is going to be a lot of Vietnam War stuff. Basically, Resolution 9 was adopted by North Vietnam, which stated that it was all-out war against South Vietnam. So that's a very sad day. But then the Beatles released their second album, so it was a happy day. And I'm sure everybody just wanted to pay attention to the Beatles. On the 29th, the 9th Winter Olympics began in Austria, Innsbruck, Austria. Then on the 30th, also on the 29th, Dr. Strangelove was released. It is a really freaky movie. If you want to watch a freaky movie with Stanley Kubrick and who directed it, and Peter Sellers and George C. Scott, I watched it. It's not that good, but it was pretty popular at the time. And then to end the month, South Vietnam gets a new general. His name is General Khan, and since he kind of came in and ousted the old one, I don't think it's going to go over well, but we will see for February. So that's it for January, and we will do February on the next one. Bye.